Greetings, everyone. This is Nathan Hatch, president of Wake Forest. Students, parents, and families, it is a pleasure to have you with us this evening. Thank you for joining us. We have missed you so much on campus and look forward very much to your return. As you know, our mission at Wake Forest is to open the doors of opportunity to seek truth and cultivate a community of people of good character and mutual support. This calling has been more important and never more important than it is currently. The communities in which we live are under great stress as we cope with the perfect storm of a pandemic, an economic recession, and painful reminders that we as a country have repeatedly failed to live up to our ideals. In the midst of this perfect storm, we're working on our plans to reopen Wake Forest this fall because, more than anything, we want to reunite with the community that we so cherish. With the help and expertise of many, we are developing a flexible plan guided by 4 guiding principles. First, the health and safety of our faculty, staff, and students is our top priority, and we are grateful for the wonderful medical experts that are providing advice in this area. Second, the integrity of our academic work is paramount, and we will continue to pursue excellence in course design, delivery, and scholarship. Third, we are committed to honoring our core values as a caring community that respects one another and honors the intrinsic value of every individual. And finally, we are unwavering in our dedication to educating the whole person and upholding our commitment to pro humanitate. Following these principles, our plan is being outlined by 3 defining qualities. First, our success this semester relies on the shared commitment of our community to health and safety. In order to have an operationally smooth, intellectually engaging, and emotionally fulfilling semester, we will all need to play our role in health and safety of the entire community. We will be asking each of you to commit to a set of practices, a compact, if you will, that will promote your own health and safety and that of everyone around you. Second, our plan highlights the innovative course design and delivery that our faculty members are working on right now. Recognizing that everyone may not be able to be physically present on campus, we're preparing our course design to include face-to-face, blended, and online classes. Teaching will use technology where necessary and where it enables students to engage more fully in the academic experience. And finally, our plan offers significant choice and flexibility for our students and faculty. We have worked to create a model that will meet the many preferences and needs of our faculty and students. Ultimately, our steps forward seek to embody the essence of Wake Forest, a place that takes each person seriously, respects their intellect and dispositions toward learning, and invests in the quality of every experience and interaction. There will be much to learn as the semester unfolds, and we will need to create the greatest flexibility to adapt to conditions as they change. As we look forward to the fall, I thank you in advance for the many ways you will help to make this semester a success. The strength of Wake Forest is its people, and I'm grateful to have you as part of this family. I would now like to turn our time over to key leaders who have spent much time shaping our thoughts for the fall. Please let me introduce Rogan Kirsch, our provost, to get us started. Provost Kirsch is a Wake Forest graduate, a distinguished political scientist, a prize-winning teacher, and he came back to Wake Forest 8 years ago from New York University. Provost Kirsch.
Thank you, President Hatch. I'm delighted to be with you all. As I look on the chat or in the Zoom, I see so many of my students and other familiar faces. I so look forward to welcoming you back for what I hope is in person this fall. Actually, I've been on campus almost every day, working in a sanitized area, socially distanced in my office since we closed our doors under COVID. And it's very poignant to be on our campus without you all. I'm very much looking forward to welcoming you back. I've been honored To work on our fall plan with Dr. Hatch and a terrific group of deans and cabinet colleagues, I want to introduce to you two deans now who will talk in more detail about our fall planning, both of whom work with you undergraduates at Wake Forest. Michelle Gillespie's been at Wake Forest more than 20 years. You all know her as the dean of our undergraduate college. She's your dean. She's been doing that role for the last 5 years. She's also a nationally renowned historian of the United States South and of women's history. Charles Iacovu is dean, of course, of our business school, also has an extensive tenure at Wake Forest. More recently, Charles was tapped to lead a remarkable scenario planning effort that you'll hear more about tonight to ensure that our expected fall reopening is as smooth as possible and characterized by, as Dr. Hatch said, your health and safety, academic integrity, a Wake Forest style academic experience, and as much of a collegiate experience as is possible. Over to Charles Iacovu.
Thank you, Provost Kirsch. Before I share a few thoughts about our exciting fall plans, let me take a minute to express how thrilled I am about having you, our students, back at Wake Forest in a couple of months. I know the circumstances during the spring semester forced an abrupt conclusion to your on-campus experience, and I cannot wait for you to resume your special Wake Forest journey. Now, let's talk about our plans. As our provost mentioned, I currently chair our university-wide team that is coordinating our planning efforts as we contemplate various scenarios about how we will operate our campus in the fall and beyond. As mentioned already, in every plan we create, the health and safety of our community is our #1 priority. We rely on our resident medical professionals and world-renowned experts at our medical center to help shape all of our plans. In addition to relying on our internal experts, we're in constant communication with dozens of other universities to ensure that we are aware of their latest thinking as well. In all, I feel very confident about the rigorous planning work that is guiding much of what you will hear today. Related to our academic plan, we anticipate a couple of things to be central to how we will deliver courses in the fall. First, we expect that all of us will have to follow social distancing and other safety measures, including masks, to minimize the risk to your health and those of our colleagues. Because of the need to create more personal space for each of you, we will need to reduce the capacity of our classrooms and limit the size of our on-ground classes. 2, not all students and faculty members who want to be on campus will be able to do so because of specific health conditions, concerns, or other reasons beyond their control, such as travel restrictions. As a result, it will be essential to offer significant remote learning options. Because of these factors, and as President Hatch mentioned, we have developed a course delivery program that will provide extensive choice to you across a number of class formats. In general, smaller classes and courses requiring hands-on experiences, such as labs and studios, will be delivered face-to-face. Many of our classes will be delivered in a blended format that combines the best of in-person engagement and state-of-the-art technologies. Finally, large classes will be offered in online formats to minimize health risks. Overall, you will have a set of options to consider when it comes to your fall semester. We aspire to have each of you make your own choices about the modalities of your courses to the extent possible. And as I mentioned already, our goal is to allow students who are unable to join us in person to complete their semester virtually. Finally, let me say a word about our calendar. Assuming public health conditions allow, we plan to begin your courses on August 26th and end the face-to-face part of all of our courses by Thanksgiving. At that point, and assuming we have no other disruptions, all of our delivery will switch to virtual to give you a chance to get home and complete your courses there. I hope this information is helping convey the rich set of academic options that will be available to you in the fall. And now, Dean Gillespie will speak about the great work that your professors are pursuing to make all of this possible for you. Dean Gillespie?
Thank you, Dean Iacovu. Hello, everyone. I'm just so happy to be able to speak with you tonight, as my colleagues are. I very much look forward to seeing you back at Wake Forest this fall, and all your faculty feel the exact same way. We miss you. We want you back in our courses. We want to find out how you've been and what you've been looking forward to, what you've been up to. We want to grab a cup of coffee with you, talk about new books, talk about the amazing, extraordinary, challenging things that are happening in the world. Tonight, I want to talk to you about why I think your courses this fall are going to be better than ever. But first, I have to do some quick time travel with you. And you know I'm a historian after all, and I have to do this. So I want you to think about the second half of this past spring and the way you all adapted so very well, so heroically, really, with the challenge of closing campus and moving all your courses to remote delivery. Your faculty were as adaptive and heroic as you were, as you know. They had a week's prep to switch their classes from wholly face-to-face to wholly online. And we all know there were lots of challenges and surprises for you and the faculty, all kinds of new ways of learning all along the way. And sometimes you had a tough time, and faculty sometimes had a tough time too, and they missed being with you. We miss being with you. We miss the face-to-face in-person classes. We miss them now. They miss the office hours, the coffee, the field trips, the advising. We missed all of that. But faculty, along with you, handled it all along the way. And things worked out pretty darn well, all things considered. We learned lots from you and from the faculty. We know that many of you actually learned more in the second half of the semester in this new virtual world. Faculty told us they got to know some of their students much better virtually than when they had them in their face-to-face class, which was really surprising and intriguing for us. Why did that happen that way? Faculty also reported that there were real benefits to using technology in their classroom in ways they had not imagined before. And they said when they go back to fully face-to-face classes, they will incorporate this new learning into them. Meanwhile, as we finished our semester and we looked towards the summer, we found out we were going to have to deliver all our summer school courses online. So here we were again, looking forward to face-to-face, and now we're going to summer online. Of course, at Wake Forest, we strive to do whatever we do even better the next time around. So we began preparing for summer school, and for the first time in our history, when we have to offer these courses wholly online, we learned from what we had experienced in the spring, and we created a 3-week workshop for all faculty teaching summer school to make sure we offered truly state-of-the-art, great online classes in this next iteration. And that's what we did. We have 80 faculty teaching lots of courses this summer, and from all reports, things are going swimmingly. And then we said, what are we going to do for the fall? We said, let's do this even better. Let's go to the next level with our superlative Wake Forest education. We just trained those 80 faculty to do online teaching. We know what COVID we don't know what COVID will bring us going forward. We need to be prepared. And all Wake Forest faculty, as much as we love face-to-face, need to be prepared, as Dina Akovu talked about, to pivot to online. And we need to be able to offer blended courses that use less classroom time, given space limitations and social distancing. So this summer, many Wake Forest undergraduate faculty will pursue a unique 40-hour program that's preparing them to offer blended and online courses in addition to our face-to-face ones. This means that at this very moment, all of your faculty are examining their fall offerings within their academic departments, and they're figuring out and having really intense conversations about the best modality for them to teach in, face-to-face, blended, or online. They want to make sure we can ensure that we create the best student learning opportunities and great student experiences that we possibly can. This is our assurance, essentially, that your faculty will offer Wake Forest's signature education, rigorous, intimate, and excellent, not only in our well-known, wonderful face-to-face format, but in fabulous blended and online versions too. So literally, our faculty are redesigning their syllabi right now. They're centering on learning outcomes and the best technology tools to realize them. They're reimagining how to share disciplinary knowledge in new ways. They're working together as a community of learners, just as you are a community of learners. And they are curious and engaged and collaborative and really excited about what they're doing this summer. And all our faculty are doing this at all stages of their careers, from the newest faculty that we're just welcoming to the most senior faculty among us. Why are we doing this? Why? Well, we're doing it so that all our faculty can take their great teaching to a whole new level, so they can use technology to enhance their courses in whatever modality they will teach this fall. So this means that no matter what course schedule you have this fall, whether you are at Wake Forest or you must be at home, you will have fantastic, inviting courses. They will challenge you, they will engage you, they will excite you, and you will have Wake Forest faculty who get to know you all along the way and support and mentor you in your personal and professional growth, because they care deeply about you and want you to be successful regardless of the challenges COVID-19 and the safety limitations throw our way. Now, what if you can't be here this fall and you are a student in the United States? And in just a moment, Provost Kirch is going to talk about what opportunities we have for international students not in the United States. But if you are a domestic student who needs to be home this fall and will need to take all your courses online, we will, of course, have online courses for you. But we're thinking about trying to develop, evolving something very exciting that we think could do even more. We asked ourselves, can we provide a special signature experience for our students who can't be at Wake Forest this fall? And so right now we're exploring a credit-bearing, faculty supervised, supported, taught service learning class that students can carry out in their home communities and connect with each other from community to community. So this would be a signature Wake Forest non-resident experience. We would call it something like, I think we're right now, our title is Pro Humanitate Core. You would get 4 credit for one course or a combo of courses, and it would deal with a critically important topic. We think the best topic we could explore right now is social justice and COVID. And this would link you as students to your community, to each other, and to the needs of the world that we're in right now. It would help our students, help all of us live out our Pro Humanitate motto and make a difference in your own community. We would want it to be team taught by our own faculty in the college, best faculty in the arts and sciences, but also faculty across the schools in law, business, medical, divinity. And we would make use of local Wake Forest alumni expertise and mentoring in your own. So we're very excited about this offering, about this possible offering. And I'd say to you right now, if you think it's a good idea, go ahead and tell us in the chat. We think it's going to be rigorous, it's going to be timely, it's going to build community beyond Wake Forest, and it's going to take advantage of our faculty expertise across the entire university and our alumni expertise well beyond as well too. I can't wait to welcome you back to campus. And now I want to turn the program over to Provost Kirch.
Thanks, Dean Gillespie. 2 quick notes of encouragement on the academic front, sandwiched around one disappointment, and then you'll hear more about what experience you might expect to find on campus outside the classroom. First of all, you all know our wonderful faculty. You've heard a lot of details from both Deans Iacovo and Gillespie about what you can expect to find in the classroom and in the online modality. These extraordinary faculty we call teacher scholars. They are indeed teachers first. Many of them also do remarkable research in laboratories and archives, on performance stages all around the world. And it was one of the most difficult parts of this COVID period for us on campus to have to shut down our on-campus research, the research around performance again, and research in laboratories and many other places. Some can work online, but the face-to-face laboratory experience in particular, we had to shut those labs. And just last week, under carefully specified conditions with social distancing and all kinds of personal protective equipment and sanitization and the like, we've begun to reopen our laboratories and some of our performance spaces so that that vital work of research and discovery can again be carried on. So one note of big encouragement as we lean towards the fall. Here's the disappointment, as I think many of you, probably all of you by now know, we've had to cancel all our study abroad programs for the fall. You all know that Wake Forest is among the very top 2 or 3 universities in the country in terms of the proportion of students who study abroad for credit. It was very painful for us and the academic team and the global programs crew to have to decide based on all the uncertainties surrounding what countries might be safe or not, about whether resident professors could travel, about whether you might be quarantined if you were able to go to another country. So we had to make that very difficult decision. I will note that those of you who are thinking about Wake Washington, we are hopeful that program will take place. We'll know by the 2nd week of July. But it's a disappointing moment, and I'll circle back a little later in the question and answer period to more international and global aspects of Wake Forest. One last note of encouragement, though, to sandwich around this disappointment. has to do with enrollments. We weren't sure as we moved through this terrible pandemic period whether you'd want to come back to us and whether the students newly accepted would indeed want to enroll at Wake Forest. You've seen the stories all over the country. Universities, particularly in the hardest hit COVID areas, are deeply concerned about whether they'll be able to accommodate students on campus and the like, and whether students will decide to make those trips. The good news is that, at least so far, there's a very strong, decisive desire to return to Wake Forest. The vast majority of you are going to be back with us. Again, not all in person, we know, but those who have to remain home, we know would like to still remain engaged in the kinds of courses online and pro humanitate core that Dean Gillespie described. We also know that those who've been accepted, the class of 2024, are, at least again so far, coming in record numbers. We have not seen the kind of fall away that, again, some of our peer schools are experiencing and that we'd feared. So a moment of good news, again, amid a very difficult time. All right, you've got a sense of the classroom and the different modalities. What kind of experience can you expect to find otherwise on campus? And we're so fortunate. You all know Penny Rue, our wonderful, renowned national leader, at the helm of that planning. She's vice president for campus life. She's also professor of counseling. Penny came to us 7 years ago from the University of California at San Diego, and you know Penny and her team. They have deep responsibility for your safety and well-being and your education outside the classroom. Penny, over to you.
Thank you, Provost Kirsch. And to all of you out there, oh, how we've missed you. I'll begin by underscoring our commitments to campus life in the fall, promoting the safety and well-being of our entire community and nurturing that sense of belonging that is the hallmark of the Wake Forest experience. We're going to make all of our decisions with these twin commitments in mind. So what will life on campus be like in the fall? Like nothing we've ever seen before and completely consistent with who we are. We can take our cue from an entirely revamped Wake and Shake held virtually in March. The student leaders were so creative. They reached out to hundreds of students, had lots of pre-recorded dance moves, a special Spotify list, the liberal use of Instagram, and created an incredibly engaging and timely virtual dance marathon. They raised over $350,000 and inspired a whole new generation of dancers. The SOAR Awards happened virtually as well, and in some ways, it was an even more intimate and personal in that format. The student leaders that I've talked to are really eager to get back to campus and have never stopped working on your behalf. Our student government members are engaged in planning of all types, making sure both to represent and communicate with you. I'm collaborating now with a very creative group of students, faculty, and staff using a framework called appreciative inquiry to look for the most positive approaches to creating an engaging campus in a safe and healthy way. Rather than language of overcoming problems, appreciative inquiry focuses on creating possibilities. Through the processes of discovery, design, dreaming, and destiny, the group is finding ways to leverage existing Wake Forest strengths, create a fun out-of-class experience. And we want you to help us think through how we can welcome our newest deacons and help them get connected. What role will you play in helping our newest deacons find their niche? How do we help them make friends and explore what we have to offer? How can we use our beautiful outdoor spaces in ways that engage you and them and each other in meaningful ways? What does it mean to provide the hallmark Wake Forest face-to-face personal experience while complying with public health guidance? These are the questions we're probing, and we'd love your ideas. Think about Fern Plaza as the new playroom of campus. A cappella concerts from the balcony, movies on the lawn, a faculty dog parade around the bricks. Envision food truck Fridays in front of Dogwood and Magnolia with picnics on the lawn. What would you add? I can help find funding for your creative ideas for gathering safely. We're planning low-risk intramurals like bowling, tennis, cornhole, frisbee, and golf. Think three-point shooting, horse, ping pong. And low-risk club sports like archery, bass fishing, cycling, equestrian, and golf. The Wellbeing Center will be open with a few different practices to keep everyone safe. And the Office of Wellbeing has created some outstanding new offerings designed to strengthen your resilience. Our Office of Personal and Career Development is ready to help you navigate an uncertain economy and come out on top. There's also a very talented group of student leaders from every facet of campus developing the Student Social Compact that President Hatch mentioned. They're immersing themselves in understanding what we know about the virus, its risk factors, and existing student attitudes and behaviors. The group will put those together with what they know about each other, the campus, and what matters most in terms of connection. And they are using the principles of design thinking, an iterative process which seeks to understand the user, challenge assumptions, and redefine problems to identify alternative strategies and solutions that might not be immediately apparent. The group will then work together to develop and promote among their peers, you, the tenets that we will all want to live by, and think through how to best turn these into truly shared commitments. Now, we're all aware of the importance of testing as a key strategy. So I want to update you on how we're deploying that strategy. Be assured we're following the best of public health guidance, especially from the American College Health Association, which focuses specifically on college campuses. Before returning in the fall, you all will complete a screening tool. Those of you with either symptoms or exposure will have a test kit shipped to your home overnight. You'll then return the sample to the lab in an overnight package that's provided with the test kit. And in short order, you'll receive the results through a portal, and a complete report will be provided back to the campus. Individuals who have positive results would then be required to provide documentation from a medical provider or local public health official documenting that you've met CDC criteria for release from home isolation before returning to campus. Students with symptoms but with negative test results will also see a medical provider to secure clearance. Now, we'll offer diagnostic testing to all students, faculty, and staff who need it. That means we prioritize testing for anyone with symptoms of potential COVID-19 infection. That testing will be augmented with contact tracing, plus isolation and quarantine of exposed individuals. And we have secured housing that will remain ready and waiting for affected or exposed students. It's important to know that the overall prevalence of COVID-19 in the healthy young adult population is low, probably less than 1%. So at this prevalence level, the value of a broad population testing would be undermined by both false positive and false negative results. And negative tests can lead you to a false sense of security, and it's just not recommended. That said, we are closely monitoring the evolving recommendations of CDC and our state public health officials for testing, and we'll update our approach based on any emerging information and recommendations from them. So to help us get ready for fall, we are now wrapping up a project where we've conducted focus groups with members of 16 different groups of students to find out what had worked well over the past few months in terms of virtual engagement. And perhaps some of you were part of one of those. You've told us what matters most to students right now in terms of connection, and that will help us plan for the fall. You've mentioned opportunities that focus on mental health, professional development, and personal connections. You also want to make sure you reconnect with your friends. We've also conducted a survey with over 3,000 responses that asked students about their attitudes and behaviors regarding physical distancing, hygiene behaviors, and what they think others believe. This is going to help us create a social norms campaign to align attitudes and behaviors. It turns out you all are pretty savvy about safety. 93% of you believe it's your responsibility to maintain physical distance. And 96% often, very often, or always practice regular hand washing. When you think about it, those attitudes are reflected in our experience with students in the spring. Post-spring break, we initially had about 450 students on campus, with another 300 nearby. During that time, despite having students return from spring break positive for COVID-19 or in isolation from exposure, there was no community transmission, none. So it seems like you all used good judgment. Now, you've probably heard about the family pod concept, where people engage in group activities with the same people to limit exposure. So the college and campus life are exploring developing cohorts of students who will be in some classes together as well as live near each other, both to strengthen the bonds and to limit risk. So we're excited to welcome you back to campus in the fall. We'll do our best to help you reconnect, help you reinvent traditions or create entirely new ones, and create a true sense of community in the face of adversity. I can't wait to have you back. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Sharice James, Director of Orientation and our moderator for tonight's Q&A. Sharice?
Thank you, Dr. Rue. As we transition into the question and answer portion of this meeting, we've sifted through hundreds of questions that were submitted, and we selected the most frequently asked questions that were not already answered via tonight's remarks. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that many of you have asked questions about specific plannings that our team is still working on. Everything from how will classrooms be set up, to what sanitation and cleaning protocols will be used, to whether students will be allowed to leave campus or have families visit them. We're still looking at all of these areas, and we want to make sure that those answers are still emerging for our team. Some other questions like, will fall sports happen as scheduled, are easy to answer, as they're being decided by entities outside of Wake Forest. So we need to wait for the NCAA or ACC to weigh in on this. I imagine that other questions have come up since we began this conversation, and I will do my best to quickly pull those from the chat if time allows. At the completion of this town hall, we will be archiving the questions submitted on chat, and we'll include those answers to the frequently asked questions, as well as recording of this town hall on ourwayforward.wfu.edu. So let's get started, shall we? I'm going to turn my attention to Dean Iakovu. What were some of the larger aspects that you explored with the scenario planning team as you considered the reopening of campus for the fall?
Thank you, Dr. James. Obviously, there are a number of teams, not just the team that I'm a member of, that they're tackling big issues across the university. So we're spending a lot of time studying, forecasting, reflecting on multiple dimensions of the preparations that we have to do for the fall. But I'll tell you what was easy and what was difficult. What was easy, and really there was no discussion, no conflict, no debate about what's important. The values that our president articulated at the beginning of the call that still guide all of our planning, the respect that we have for everybody's well-being, the commitment to academic excellence. I can tell you that was well shared across all of the teams, not just the one that I serve on. We certainly spent some time debating certain issues, including the one that Provost Kirsch mentioned, the cancellation of the study abroad-ish options, or the beginning and the end of the calendar for the fall semester. So there are multiple options as one contemplates the possibilities associated with those issues. If it was one thing that really demanded a lot of attention, invited a lot of conversations, if I was to name one, I would say it was humanizing our plan for the fall. It's one thing to have a policy. It's another to create a shared culture, just that, like Dr. Rue mentioned, that is shared among the students, the faculty, the visitors, the parents, and we all embrace our collective commitment to each other's well-being. So developing a policy is easy. Developing that culture and the shared ownership is more challenging. Predicting human behavior, we're talking about a virus here that gets transmitted based on human behavior. So predicting the human behavior, forecasting it, designing solutions for it, as Dr. Rue said, it's challenging. So if there was one thing that I will name that really require a lot of reflection and discussions, that would be it. And I feel we got it right, and we'll continue to strive for a good arrangement for that. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you. So you mentioned a lot about the human interaction and the human attention, centering those decisions around that. One big piece about Wake Forest and many colleges are traditions. So we think about homecoming, family weekend, all of those large experiences on campus. Dr. Rue, could you talk to us a little bit about what conversations have started to happen centered around traditions that bring off-campus guests to us?
Yeah, it's a great question, Dr. James, and one that we're really planning around daily. Obviously, we have to pay attention to the public health guidance and to our local officials. So we're trying to think through how large gatherings could work within the boundaries of public health guidelines. And we plan to be able to make our decision and share it with the community on June 30th, our next major announcement. Obviously, these are very difficult decisions and one we're looking at right now from all angles.
Thank you. And Dean Iacovo, you mentioned the aspects of the calendar, and you shared that very well with us. We know that lots of institutions have explored the idea of starting their semester earlier. Could you talk to us a little bit about maybe why we didn't take that direction?
Absolutely. Good question. There is some variance. There's some diversity in the start dates of the semester as articulated already by several universities. Of course, that's always the case, but in this moment, it probably invites more questions than usual. Why does a university select a specific date as their start date for the fall? In this particular context, I believe most universities are looking at 4 things, if not more, to determine the calendar for the fall and beyond. First, the current local conditions of COVID in their communities. And across the country, those are not homogeneous. There is diversity across the country. The second thing that I think they're looking at is looking forward, trying to forecast the supply chain as it relates to critical resources that will put the well-being of their students, their faculty at the forefront of their plans. We would like to have same-day testing available to us when we welcome the students back on campus. That technology is not quite available at the scale that we need it to be today, but we hope that it will be by the time August comes around. So the longer you push your date back, the higher the probability that you'll be securing the supply. Accreditation requirements is the third factor that schools need to consider as they look at the calendar options. And lastly, they have to look into their crystal ball and predict what the COVID conditions will look like in the fall. Will there be a second wave? Will there not be? What will it look like in North Carolina and other places? So you have to take all of these factors and others into the calculation and try to calibrate the beginning and the end of the semester right. And by taking into account all of these factors, we felt that August 26th would give the best chance to our students to enjoy the classes, the campus, the activities that they so much cherish in the best way possible.
Perfect, thank you. Speaking of enjoying classes, Dean Gillespie, you talked about all of the work that has gone in, faculty have done to sort of prepare for the semester. Could you talk to us a little bit about the registration process, any updates there, and then how will students be able to distinguish between in-person and online?
Absolutely. Well, as I suggested, faculty are working within their departments right now, looking at their original courses, and then thinking about how they want to adapt them to the best modalities that will work with the conditions that we have going forward. And they'll be submitting each department, each academic department and program will be submitting their desired modalities to the registrar at the end of next week. And then we will go through the puzzle pieces of making sure we have classroom spaces for those courses, blended and face-to-face, that need those spaces within the confines of the social distancing requirements for our classes. I should say that many faculty hope that they're going to be able to teach outside in our beautiful Piedmont fall weather. So they're looking to that as well. This means that the banner system will be set up, and we'll play around with it a little bit so that in less than a month, the final adjusted fall schedule will be available to all of you to look at on July 14th. And then we will open up the next day for drop add for all of our continuing students from July 15th to July 21st. And Dr. James, the other question, I just lost it. The other question you asked me was?
How will they be able to distinguish between online and
how will
in-person?
they be? So on the on WIN, on Danner, every course and section will be identified with the modality it will be offered in. So whether it is face-to-face, whether it is blended traditional, blended pathway, or online will be identified there. And we will be sharing with all of you before we even open this up, a graphic to help you distinguish each of these modalities and giving you lots of information as well. So that will all be ready for you to glean and essentially to look at what your original schedule was and see how you might want to adapt if you want to adapt it with the modalities that you see there.
Perfect. Thank you. So a huge part of the on-campus experience is living on campus. So I'm going to shift our attention to the residential experience. We've had quite a few questions about housing, one of which is the 3-year residency agreement and whether students, seniors specifically, will have that preference for selection. Dr. Rue, could you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, certainly. So let me address the residency requirement first for our underclassmen. It is possible that we will not be able to house everyone we would like to in a combination of on and off campus university sponsored housing, in which case we will release some students from the residency requirement. You may know we do this every spring when our juniors typically return from abroad. So that's not that unusual. In terms of the role for seniors, we feel confident that we've secured enough housing on campus, in apartments, and in nearby hotels to meet our anticipated demand. We will be issuing a housing intent survey very shortly to better understand student preferences so we can adequately plan accordingly. We hope that seniors who want to live on campus will be able to. We've included that in our plans based on the typical demand seen by seniors in previous years. So we know that this year is anything but typical, and we will be responsive to all of these needs as best we can.
Perfect. As a follow-up, Dr. Rue, we've had several people ask questions about housing costs and how that might change based on the effort to de-densify the residence hall. Could you talk to that?
Yeah, I appreciate that. We have not come to a final decision on that, but we are actively exploring our rate structures in light of the need for de-densification with an eye towards fairness and equity. For example, this summer, while we required every student to live in a single, we did not charge everybody the single rate. We created a blended rate, and we actually extended the typical term of service. So it was to simplify the process for students. And so it was a good value. And so we're making those kinds of decisions based on what the properties that we have available. So it's just, there's a lot of moving parts, but trust me that fairness is really at the heart of our decision-making.
Thank you. And one of the pieces that we talked about, obviously, is the academic calendar. And there's been a lot of conversation about our international students and their ability to travel to make it to the US. Provost Kirsch, could you talk to us a little bit about sort of that ability for international students to transition to the US and what considerations have the university made for that?
Absolutely, Dr. James. Thank you. We're most eager to welcome back, of course, our sophomore, junior, and senior international students. And we know that many of you will have your return delayed due to forces beyond your control. 2 quick points. First, as Dean Gillespie so well described, every faculty member, including me, is preparing to teach online, to be trained to teach online in as robust and engaging a fashion as possible. In fact, many of us will teach some of our classes face-to-face and some of them online. Some courses will have sections both face-to-face and online. Some of the online courses will be offered to international students who can't come back to us, but also to students who are domestic and unable to return to campus. And let me say, also to students who are here in Winston-Salem and even living on campus. We know some of you will choose to take at least some of your courses through online formats. So the point is, if you're an international student, you will not be alone with other international students taking online courses. There'll be a rich blend of our students. We know there's time zone issues. We worked through a lot of those details of teaching students who are around the globe these past few months during the rest of the spring semester and now in the summer. I think of Dr. Ananda Mitra, many of you had in our communications department. In his class of 30 or so comm students in the spring, he had 12 different time zones represented by students in a single class. So we're working on that piece very hard. Let me note something also that feels very exciting in the preparation. As you all know, Wake Forest has multiple overseas locations. We have the houses we own in places like Venice and Vienna and London. We also have Wake Forest rented and extensive properties in places like Barcelona and Florence and so on. In other places, we work with university partners around the world. We're preparing, knowing that we won't have students, our own students traveling abroad for the fall. We're preparing to offer face-to-face Wake Forest courses for our international students in these multiple overseas locations. We'll work with resident faculty who've taught Wake Forest students before, so they're our faculty, they know our style of teaching. We're already looking at places like Shanghai and Beijing in China, elsewhere across Asia, many locations in Europe, across Latin America, and more. So a couple different ways that we'd like this experience for our international students who can't make it here to be as robust and rich as possible.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So we've had a very full conversation tonight, and one of the things that Dr. Rue mentioned was sort of the protocols for testing. So Dr. Rue, I want to talk to you a little bit more about what kind of conversations have been occurring in student health as far as processes, protocols, and then certainly staffing that has come up a lot.
Thank you, Dr. James. I will say that I don't think anybody has worked any harder than our student health staff over the past few months. And I say that I'm looking at a group of people who worked incredibly hard. So I'm very proud of our approach. I will say that we are currently planning now to extend the hours of student health into the evening and onto Sundays, and expanding our staffing to meet the demand. We will separate the clinic entrance and intake and service areas for those that present with upper respiratory illnesses like COVID-19 or any of those symptoms. We'll separate that from students presenting other health issues. We do believe we will have that rapid point of care testing that's currently under development with results available in as little as 15 minutes. So we can react very quickly to trace and to isolate. We are, as I mentioned, we've obtained off-campus space where we can isolate those students with symptoms and still make sure that they can take their classes if they're well and healthy, or just with mild symptoms. Our student health director and medical director are both trained in public health, which makes them exceptional leaders for this moment in time. We're also, as you know, very lucky to be associated with a tertiary care hospital and medical center with an outstanding internationally recognized infectious disease department. And those individuals are really helping us at every step of the way as we wrestle with these very thorny issues in developing our protocols and in considering our procedures and staying up to the minute with the most current research. We also have an excellent emergency department and intensive care unit in our hospital, neither of which have been overstressed by the virus in this area. And then under Charles's leadership, we really have created protocols with multiple indicators, including those North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services guidelines that will determine how we react to outbreaks on campus and what that means for in-person contact, et cetera. So we are learning all the time, staying in touch with the best of guidance, and I think we're going to be well prepared.
Perfect. Thank you so much. One of the big questions that was asked is, we understand that social distancing will be important in addressing this pandemic. for masks, there's been plenty of questions about whether or not they're mandatory on campus, whether they'll be available to students either given or for purchase. So Dean Iakovu, could you share a little bit about what conversations have occurred with the scenario planning team regarding that?
Absolutely. That would be an essential piece of the overall strategy we'll be pursuing across a spectrum of safety measures for our students, for our colleagues, visitors. And we're fortunate to be part of a citywide initiative that has been nationally recognized that attempts to provide masks to all of the citizens in Winston-Salem. As part of that effort, already students who are here and employees who are part of the Wake Forest community have received masks, or masks have been made available to them through distribution points that we have structured. And it is our intention that we'll make masks available to our students when they're here as well. We're hoping to have some good branded material that will be used for those masks that will demonstrate our pride and excitement and commitment to each other's health. So I'm excited for that. And I know that our students and colleagues will take that aspect of our plan seriously. Thanks.
Perfect. So as we come to the end of our conversation, I wanted to offer the panelists an opportunity to provide one last moment of thoughts. So if anyone is interested in utilizing that time, I'll turn it over to you.
Let me just offer a hearty word of thanks to my colleagues here and scores of others who are working, I call it reinventing the university. I mean, every process, every class, every engagement, we have to rethink. And I've never seen better teamwork. I've never seen longer hours. I've never seen more commitment or more goodwill to make Wake Forest what it can be in these difficult times. So I'm deeply grateful.
Perfect. Well, that is the wrap for our program. As we come to the end of our program, I want to remind you that you should be going to ourwayforward.wfu.edu. We'll continue to update that site as we grapple with the many lingering questions surrounding our return to Wake Forest in the fall. Please visit the site often, and then also be sure to keep a keen eye on your Wake Forest email address. We hope to see you soon, and we look forward to seeing you in August. Take care and have a great night.
And two final words, go Deeks.
Go Deeks.